So I found the biggest problem they had is they had a great product, but the consumer, there was a disconnect. There was too many levels where it was going between. So they didn't talk to the end use customers. They just talked to some distribution customers, some distributors. Some distributors carry everything under the sun, so there's no passion towards it unless you actually talk to the end use customers. You're not gonna find out what's good or bad about your product. You can change it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Wisenetix Podcast episode. I'm your host, Ricardo, and I'm very happy to have here with me today Chris Grant. Chris, for you that don't know him yet, Chris is the CEO. He's a CEO at IHT Group, which we're going to be talking a little bit more today. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, thanks a lot, Ricardo. How are you doing?
All good, all good. I'm glad to have you. Chris, we like to start our conversations by, learning a little bit more about our guest speakers. So if you could tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Sure, no problem. My name is Chris Grant. I'm president of IHT Group. We basically manufacture products for the pork industry. So we manufacture heating, cooling, and we actually have a LED division as well. My background, as you know, and we've talked about this before, I am not an agricultural guy. Actually, I'm a commerce guy. I didn't grow up on a farm like most of the people in the industry. So my dad was a farmer, and he moved to the city. And then me, my brothers, sisters, all of us were born in a city. So we have an agricultural background as a family, but it goes back generations. Born and raised in Vancouver, lived in Calgary for quite a while, and then now I live in Toronto. So that's kind of my background for you there. So it's a little different than most people in this industry. So I'm not agricultural based, but my father was, and so that gives you a little history on us.
Great. We're going to have the opportunity to dive a little bit deeper on that. Actually, that's my next question.
Yeah.
What would you say are your top 3 experiences in life so far, Chris? And what did you learn from those?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. Let me think here. I would say there's a couple of them. One, obviously, everybody's going to say is buying this company. Running IHT is a totally different experience that I've ever had in my life, and life-changing, life-altering. It's amazing. Second, I would say is the courage to move and change. That'd be a great life experience. So moving from Vancouver, big city, moved to Calgary, packed up my life, moved there, lived there for 10, 11 years. Met some amazing people, and then did it again. So having the courage and to be able to do that. Not many people want to do that. I know most people stay within a certain distance of their home and don't move across the country, but I love the opportunity and the change and the challenge. So I now live in Toronto, and I reside here. 3, I would say definitely being a mentor to a couple of ex-employees of mine that started up their own business. Man, having ex-employees come to you and ask for help, advice, be able to help them along the way, help them make their decisions, seeing them become successful. There's nothing better in this world than actually seeing an employee that actually worked for you, under you, become like a rock star, have their own thing, grow and blossom as a person, as their own business, and see them make successful. So I'd say those are 3 pretty quick ones I could throw off the top there to you.
That's great. And I see the role of mentors as something like so important. At the same time, I don't know if everyone gets the opportunity to have one in their life, in their profession. It's something that we should always be looking to, people with more experience for you to not exactly mirror, but, learn with.
Yeah, exactly. And I've talked to other people. I've had people that were my mentors, and you can ask them questions or they lead you down a path of, it's hard to explain until you've been in it. It's like there's life altering events that happen. There is things that are business related. There's personal, like there's everything. And they've got the experience now, you learning from them, then you just pass it along. So it's like you pass along to the next generation. So people can learn from your mistakes, your successes, the challenges you've had. It's a great feeling to be able to help someone out on that side.
Life is full of challenges, and it's easier to face them when you're not alone, right?
It's like every day is a challenge.
My last question, in like introductory question is, how would your parents describe what you do?
It's kind of funny. You actually asked that. I was just out with my mom for the last week and a bit on vacation, and we did a cruise and that. But it was kind of funny. I asked my mom what her thoughts were. It kind of came up as a funny conversation. We had friends over. My wife's one of her friends. He's a school teacher at a high school. I think he's vice principal. And we were talking and we're sitting around, and he actually said, he sat back and was like, "What do you actually do?" Like so I was actually asking, he didn't even have a clue. And he was a very good friend of my wife. And his joke was, he goes, "All I ever tell people is, oh, he's a businessman. He's a successful businessman. That's it." He had no clue of what we actually did and all that. So I had to explain to him. I talked to my mom about it. It was quite funny. Her comment to me was, I said, "So when you talk to your friends, like, what do you say?" She goes, "Oh, my son owns a company. It's in agriculture. It's got to do with pigs. It's heating animals and for livestock and for growing like better agricultural energy savings and something like that." I was like, wow, I actually kind of gave her the right information, or she actually heard it all and understood, and she gives it out as probably better than I can sometimes. So
Yeah, she's quite precise.
yeah, I just asked her last week. I said, "So what do you say?" And that was kind of one of those things, because I was really interested, because talking to a friend had no clue. And we have a lot of conversations with them, and friends, they have no clue really what I was doing or what I did for the last 11 years of my life.
I'm still trying to teach my fiance what I do, but I'm giving up on that.
Exactly.
And Chris, now talking, that's a transitioning question that we use to start our conversation about business and entrepreneurship and all these things. So you mentioned you're a city guy, born and raised, and then you decided to step into agriculture. So what drew you to agriculture, and how did your background in business and marketing and all of those other things uh, impacted your approach in this new area?
Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting story. It's a little different than most people that take on this journey. My background is on business, marketing, commerce. That's my background. But I was kind of working for a large plastics manufacturing company. I ran it. I ran the Canadian operation. I had 3 branches, plants to take care of. I oversaw the whole P&L for the whole organization. It's taxing. I went through 2 to 3 transitions to private equity, selling of the company. There's a lot of stress in that. And one day we're sitting around, and my wife said to me, she goes, "You need to figure out what you want to do." She goes, "You're not happy. You're not enjoying life as much as you were." I wouldn't say lost drive, but it was just a change. And it's just the way I was acting, the way I was feeling and that. So I had to really just look internally and try to figure something out. While that was going on, I believe things in this universe are always connected. So you're kind of going through that struggle, and then something else happens. A client phones me from Winnipeg, and that client, basically, I've known them for years, and they were always struggling to get something done. They had lots of great ideas. They're both closer to 70 years old, and they just said, "You know what, we can't make a go of this. We're done. We're going to close down shop. Do you know anybody who needs to buy some equipment?" And I just kind of took a step back and I said, "Well, wait a second here. What's going on?" And they kind of explained their situation, this whole, "Hey, we're going to retire. We're going to step away from the business. We can't make a go of it. We're not making any money. We put a lot into this, but hey, we're just going to stop." Well, at that point, I said, I really like what they've got. I like what they were doing. I just didn't, in talking to them, they just didn't know how to go to market properly. That was my feeling and my experience. So at that point, it was, hey, don't sell everything off. Can you guys give me a few weeks? Let me just look into this, send me some financials, and ended up a few months later, ended up purchasing the assets of the company. So it's kind of it's a crazy journey. So my wife and I were on holidays. I come back, handed in my resignation. Everybody was kind of like, what's going on? People don't quit a job as the VP of a large corporation and kind of just, it was a safe job. It was safe. It had everything I want, lots of challenge, but it just wasn't happy, to taking on this thing that I knew really a little bit about in the industry. I knew the product was great. And then I had an opportunity to interview some customers and some other stuff as part of the acquisition and buying it. So yeah, it was a crazy experience. looking back, it was 2013 we did this, so it's like 11 years. It was probably one of the best decisions I made on the personal side for business-wise in my life. So yeah, it was great. And becoming your own boss, and every decision you're making or is your decision. You treat the people you want to the way you want to treat them. It's not rules and regulations put down on you by a corporation. It's your decisions, the way you're going to do it. So, and it's very fulfilling.
As you mentioned, the company was kind of struggling. They were not making a lot of money. Then they decided to close their doors. And you kind of covered that in the first question, but what was the main motivation for you to take this step? Was it the frustration on your current job, and how was this process?
Yeah, so it's interesting. My mother always gave me a mantra. She gives it to all of us: is, hey, you're on this earth once, make the best of it. If you're not happy, make a change. So it's kind of one of those things that you forget about. And all us kids have been challenged with that all our lives. So we've all made changes, and this is life-altering change. I also knew I was very good at what I did, the industry. I had a lot of respect from people that if this didn't work out, hey, you know what? It cost me 2 years. I could go back and get another job and do this. So it was that type of thing. So if you're really good at what you do, there's always an opportunity to come back and do it. So imagine, say you manage a large barn or a section of a company, you're very good, and you want to do something else. If you're that good at what you do and you have that much confidence, you can always go back and do it. Someone will take you on with your expertise and knowledge and that. So it kind of, when you start balancing that on the personal life, it was an easier decision to make. Obviously, I had to talk to my wife about it. It was a big change. 100% supportive. She was like, you need to do this. You need to take the chance. And it's made me wake up every day. You're just invigorated. It's your business. You're just growing it. Anything you do day by day is yours. So it's been an exciting ride.
Yeah, it was a journey to success, as we know. But even when it's a journey to failure always brings us also great lessons. And as you mentioned, if you have this background, you know what to do, you're good at it, you're gonna find your space back. You shouldn't be feared of hey, I'm going to lose everything. It's my last decision and shot. It's not like that.
So yeah, when you're good at something, I think there's a hesitancy to change, to take chances. It's not easy. A lot of people are just happy with every day, just going in, doing their thing and going home and putting in hours. And for me, it just wasn't enough of a challenge. I was frustrated with the way things were going. It was just a difficult situation personally. So it was a perfect opportunity for me to segue into my next section of my career, and getting into agriculture. Man, it's been amazing. The people are amazing. The people I've met they're really down to earth. You're not dealing in a boardroom every day. You're dealing with the actual producers. You're dealing with people, their livelihoods. It's pretty cool to see that. And because these guys you're dealing with, it's basically their business they're running a lot of times too, right? In the swine industry. So you're dealing with producers, that's their business. So
their business and lives.
Yes, it is.
Now thinking about looking at the business aspect of this transition, not only the motivations, but you bought it, they were struggling. And one thing that you mentioned is that in your vision, they were not marketing the products properly.
Yeah.
What were some key changes that you did, in the strategy to fix that?
So I found the biggest problem they had is they had a great product, but the consumer, there was a disconnect. There was too many levels where it was going between. So they didn't talk to the end use customers. They just talked to some distribution customers, some distributors. Some distributors carry everything under the sun. So there's no passion towards it. Unless you actually talk to the end use customers, you're not gonna find out what's good or bad about your product. You can change it. One of the interviews I did was they had 2 customers they sold to directly in the States. They loved the product. They had nothing but great things to say about it. Those customers couldn't figure out why they didn't sell to other customers. But there was they didn't have a story. They couldn't process why is this successful? What can change what they were doing and get that vision towards the customer. So there was too many levels in between. So we eliminated a lot of those levels and went directly into a lot of clients and talked to them directly and said, this is what we're doing. You can still buy it through other channels, but we're going to we're going to actually find out what you need. What's the positives and negatives of what we're doing? What's the competition doing? What is it? Other products, or what are they doing? Side products. How does it fit? What are your challenges day by day? So actually, I find a lot of people don't actually ask the tough questions of customers and ask the story. I also find that coming from a totally different industry, I can be the guy that, hey, I know nothing. I know nothing about this wine industry.
You can ask anything.
I can ask anything. So I can ask the questions, the hard questions that explain to me how this works. Explain to me why you would do it this way. Explain. And a lot of people, because they've been raised in it, they've got these blinders on and they just say, well, I already know everything. And they never dig in deep. So sometimes coming from outside the industry is a great thing for building a business, be able to ask those tough questions. I always look at it as, you think one of the most successful guys in the world, Bezos, Amazon. He knew nothing about delivering packages and all this stuff. And now he wasn't like a FedEx guy. He wasn't that guy. And he's built this massive company based on asking questions and building it based on that. So he didn't have the biases of the industry. I didn't come in with biases. No, obviously he's a lot more famous and rich than I am. He's got all these other things. But really, if you take that mentality and you get rid of the biases and your predispositions of how things are going to happen, and you just come in and be willing to ask the questions on that, you can really grow something or to get into the market. So
very interesting perspective, and that's actually a subject that comes every time here when we're talking with marketers and people running businesses. At the end, like the start point is get in touch with your customer, like the end user, understand them, like make the hard questions, put yourself in their shoes, and being from a different industry, as you mentioned, can grant you some benefits in terms of like you can ask the dumb questions.
Go into that a little more. I was at a conference, it would have been earlier this year, and sometimes you don't realize what you've done in your life, and a guy basically formulated the whole thing about what that is and coming in from outside. And they call those people disruptors because they have no view of that industry, but they come in.
No addictions.
Yeah, no expectations. And they can kind of like everything's on the table, asking dumb questions, learning on the spot, but coming in with goals and other experiences, coming in with experiences from the plastics industry. We changed the product. We changed it to plastic from other products. A lot of it, I had lots of background there, but I didn't have the other industry experience. So it's like I could take the information they were giving me, what they really wanted, I could process it and ask them other questions that are related to the product that I could change or I had ability to change. And it opened up amazing conversations, and a lot of things we've added to the product because of those conversations we have with clients right at day one. So not being from the industry, sometimes a lot of people look at it as, oh, you're not from this industry. You don't know anything, and they just kind of push you aside. But at the end of the day, if you push along, people should open their eyes to people from other industries, because things are being done all over the world that could be adopted in this industry as well.
They have like a fresh view. I mean, and when I said addictions, what I meant is like bias or anything like industry, like we've always done like this. Why should we change, right?
And you hear that all the time. You hear that from everybody. Well, we've done this for X and we've done this for 20 years. Why should it be any different? Why should I change? So, and the hesitancy to change. But if you can find those early adopters and the people who look at what you're talking about and they'll say, that's really interesting. Let me think about that. Let me try it. And that was the other thing. So
after you understood your end user, structure your product, your offering, one thing that you emphasized was like the importance of standing behind what you were selling, the product you were commercializing, and making sure that you have a great guarantee. So people feel comfortable buying from you, they trust you. How do you bring this mindset to the company? Because it's not something easy. Like it involves money, it involves cost. If you fail, well, it can be a big deal depending on the investment, right? So
yes. So, and if like my business partner Matt, he knew more about radiant heating products than anybody I've ever met. So I've got the guy inside that can do all this. I knew enough about plastics. I know enough about these people and the industry, and kind of sitting down with people and say, what's your biggest problem? Something doesn't last. in the swine industry. It's like, okay, what's your real expectations on how long it should last? What are the competitors' products? What do these things do? So we kind of just built a matrix around that and said, okay, we can do this. That's easy. We can guarantee that it'll last this long. Also, if there's a problem, we'll fix it. And I sat in boardrooms and people have sat across from me and just want to shake your hand because it's like, if there's a problem, are you coming back to fix it? I said, I will be here face to face. I'm a man of my word. So I think that's another thing is that if you're a genuine person and people can see it, they'll understand it. They'll trust you. And if you're a person of your word and you say you're going to fix it, and if there is a problem and you fix it, that goes a million miles. But imagine if you didn't have access to the end use customer and you didn't understand who they were and you sell something in there and then they have a problem, they just throw it away. Well, that looks bad on you if you don't understand where it's going and what the problems are. So sometimes even knowing what the problems are can help you fix it and make it better and better and better and better. So that's kind of our thing, is just re-engineering, making it better and better and better. But if you didn't have that link to the end use customer or what their views were, we'd never be able to go that way. So it's kind of like you have to take one step to the next step, but making a product that'll last and that people will stand behind, or the company will stand behind, the employees will stand behind, that if there's a problem, we'll fix it, was a big, big thing in the industry.
When you have an issue, like issues, in my opinion, are the best opportunity to create champions, right?
Agreed.
People who really love your, like, if you have a problem with a product, you call the company, you're probably like pissed because you bought it, you spend money, and then it's not working. But then the service is good. They care about what, like, solving your problem. They make sure that you're satisfied.
Yeah.
Your perception goes like skyrocket. Like it's,
and people like the fact that when we actually did an outreach, a marketing outreach to a lot of clients to ask them what they thought of us, what they thought of a service, what they thought of products, and different questions. And that was one of the things we always just thought, hey, we got a great product. This is what we're selling. And it actually came back. It was eye-opening. We did it a few years ago, and it came back. Clients were talking about, it was the service levels. It was things we can do. It was, if there was a problem, they can pick up the phone and phone me. They can phone Matt. They can phone the owners of the company. They can phone the president. I'll answer their calls. We'll fix their problem. So it actually came back that we built this idea that we will fix any problem out there to actually customers believed it at the end. So that was their thing. It's like, we're never leave anybody hanging. It's the most frustrating thing that, when you deal with some large corporation and you've got a problem with your credit card, your banking, or whatever you're doing, everybody complains about flying, airlines. You pick up the phone, you got a problem, you're put on hold forever. You never get a resolution, and the person's just getting madder and more angry and angry and angry. So if you can cut that back in time and just be responsive, have someone call them back and do something, I think as a society, we've lost touch with that in a lot of ways. And then people just go off and they're like, I hate this company. I'm never going to deal with them again. Well, we didn't want that. So being in touch with your customers, who's your actual customers, is a big thing.
Yeah, it's totally different approach, as you mentioned, like big companies, and that's a tough challenge if you want to like grow too big. Like
it is.
Creating a similar structure, I believe you can create a similar structure, but it's also challenging because
it comes from above. Like we talk about, I joked about the Amazon thing. It's like, if you have a problem with Amazon, they take it back. What do you mean? They take it back. If you have something that's not right, they take it back. No questions asked. So it gets rid of that frustration level. I never hear anybody that complains about it on that side, because if you got a problem, just send it back. So that was kind of like the theory that we took. If there's a problem, phone us. We'll fix your problem. We'll send you something new. We'll get someone in there and fix it. So I think the size of the corporation doesn't matter. I think it's the leadership in the corporation sometimes has to be able to push that vision down to the people.
And plus, what is essential, the confidence that you're selling something good and a good product. Otherwise, that's why, I don't know, airline companies, it's hard because, there's a lot of gaps and problems, and
exactly.
Yeah, they would lose a lot of money if they
if they service to good, yeah. Or
yeah.
You'd be paying for a 2-hour flight, you'd be paying $2,000. So
probably. And so this mindset of the customer service, standing behind your products, this is part of a culture.
Yes.
Which cultures and values are essential and so critical for business. How do you ensure that your team not only communicates that but lives out by those standards?
I think a lot of it is you have to be careful who you hire too some days. But those people have to understand your vision. And if you live that vision and you're a good leader, they'll accept it. The next level will accept it. So if I talked this game and said, this is who we are, we looked at it as a vision, said, this is who we are, and then I did something completely different, you've lost all credibility. So what you say you're going to do, you have to do. So if someone comes to you with a problem and you have a customer service person or a salesperson that comes to you with a problem, or you're kind of talking about something, you're going, forget about it. Who cares? Well, you've just lost all credibility with that employee and the customer. So you have to, if you say you're going to do it, you have to do it wholeheartedly, 100% every time. So, and that's just a leadership style. That is just the way it is, right from top to bottom. And then you have to be cognizant of who you're hiring. I'm terrible at hiring people in the sense of my expectations of them. So I'm very careful. When it comes to salespeople, it's very difficult because you have to make sure they have the same vision as you. I find there's a lot of salespeople out there that just jump from job to job to job to job. You want someone that's going to be there long term, who has great respect of clients, and the same vision as you have. It's very expensive to train people. It's probably the most expensive thing. So when you train someone, they're not going to produce to the level that you want them to. It's going to take over a year. So you got to be able to put the time, the energy, and the money into training them. So there's a lot of things that go into this. Like there's all these little, I would call pillars that you have to follow. So it's like, hey, you have to have the vision. You have to live that vision. You have to push it down to the employees. They have to understand. Also, they have to have the feeling that they can make a change. They have to be able to, if something goes wrong with a client, they know they can just say, hey, I'm going to replace this, or I'm going to get someone to take care of it. They don't need to phone me. They can make that decision and feel confident that I'm going to stand behind them. So there's a lot of that as well. And the company's going to stand behind any decision they make on that. So a lot of it is who you hire, and hiring the right people, not just hiring a warm body. That's another thing I find out there. Too many companies they're looking to hire someone, a warm body, and they just hire someone. And then 6 months later, they realize, hey, you know what? It wasn't the right person. Next.
The cost.
We build a matrix we build a matrix of like A, B, C, D employees. And this is what we want and where it fits into the boxes. And not everybody has to be an A. Because a company won't succeed like that, but you need a lot of Bs. You need these people that have the same vision, the same drive, and going for the same goal. If you're not going for the same goal or have the ability to get to that goal, maybe they just need to find something that they're really passionate about or do something else.
That's something interesting. So a few years ago, I've lost that feeling, but and that one of the reasons is that, I'm working today at Wisenetix and I've been learning. So that's the probably the toughest challenge today to run a business is, people.
It's very
every time more before, I don't know, you would enter a job and you would expect to grow your career all your life in the same company. And nowadays, it's even something companies appreciate. Like you have different experiences. I think that's good. But there's a certain level of you have multiple experiences, or you cannot stay like in one single job and then you jump from job to job. So I was really worried when I was younger. I was like, hey, will I be able to beat competition? I don't know if I'm going to be good enough. Will the market have space for me?
Yeah.
And today, as I evolve, of course, I try to do my best, and I'm not perfect. No one is. We also fail. We also sometimes the motivation is not at the highest peak, but we work to get to where we need to be. But you see that that's the hardest part, finding people.
I agree. And I think one of the things that people never think about is this is where it came from one of my mentors, and this is something I've driven forward. It's something I learned from someone else. Is they drove it into me that when you're hiring this person, you have to be in your mind that this isn't going to be their last job. So I go into everything saying, okay, and I talk to employees about it. What do you want out of this time in your life? Do you want more education? Do you want to learn? What are you looking for? I know this is not going to be your last job, but I want, if you stick around I'd love this to be your last job. If you're a great A employee and you and you perform, I'd have you for the rest of my life. That's not a problem at all. And we'll figure a way to work. But in reality, this is not going to be your last job. So what's important to you? Is it education? Is it learning a new task, taking more schooling? What is it? I have got full support behind that. And if they decide to leave or go do something else, hey, they look favorably back at you as a person, and you never know where your paths are going to cross again. So many people I've done business with in the past, our paths have all crossed again. So you find, like, I've got 2 employees right now. They're going back to school. We're paying for their education. They want to up their degree, or they want to do something night school. They want to learn a new skill, and that skill is actually related into our business. So they're actually going to be taking that skill and using it within the company and bettering themselves and moving up within the corporation as well. So there's always opportunities, but I think those are the 2 things I would say, like, really easy from mentors. Like, hey, you got to come to the realization this person is different than you, and this will not be their last job. But if you can make their time or whatever their goals are, help them achieve their goals, it'll be a success on both sides.
So we're getting to the end of our conversation here, Chris. So for us to wrap up, reflecting now on your journey, go through all that you've been, what piece of advice would you give to someone that is thinking about taking similar steps, taking a risk, changing their job, or facing new challenges?
I would say, oh man, definitely do it. Like, you live once. It's a crazy world. It's such a small world. You can see the world, you can travel, you can do all that stuff. So 2 things I always tell people is, if you get a chance to travel in this world, go see it, see everything you can, experience as much as you can. But don't be afraid to take the risk. If you're great at what you do, why not take the chance? If you don't take the chance, you always look back. You always hear people say, man, if I took that chance 10 years ago, this could have happened, or this could have happened. Don't be that person. Take that chance, take that risk, start up something. If you're passionate about it, and don't be afraid to try something new on that side. And sometimes not everybody's wired that way, but if you have some little inkling that you really want to do this, just do it. Try it out. If you have support at home, if you have a spouse that'll support you on this decision, make sure you have the right people supporting you, your family. It's very important. But yeah, you can take the chance, and if you happen to fail, you learn from those failures. Not everything's successful, and you can always go back to doing what you're doing. If you were great at what you did, people will take you back.
Yeah, there are. I see this. I have the same vision. I think some people are not wired to that, and some people sometimes are in challenging scenarios where change can, be not as easy.
No.
But lots of people are in this, so taking the risk. And one thing that you mentioned there, the family support. In the beginning of our conversation, you mentioned like how important was your family. You mentioned lessons from your mother, the support from your
my
wife. How can you share a little bit more how your family influenced your journey?
It was weird. I said we grew up. I got 5 brothers and 2 sisters. We have a big family. It's kind of like a Brady Bunch family, all married together. My dad worked. He was a worker. My mom was a stay-at-home. She had a career, but she kind of stayed home with us. She kind of melted us that way, which is amazing. But my dad's work ethic every day. Hey, you know what? You get your butt out of bed and you go to work. It doesn't matter what happens. You work, work, work. So it was kind of one of those mentalities. Everybody in our family has been successful in some different range of their life, but it's always been about, hey, the work ethic, get it done. But then the vision of, from the other side, from your mother's side, saying, hey, don't be afraid to take a chance. Take a chance. Try something new. So you got this kind of crazy family support, and then you get married and your spouse says, hey, you know what? Take a chance. Try this. So it kind of relives that whole thing and pushes you in that direction that everything will be okay. We'll make it work. Just, you need to change the way you're looking. You got to change the way you're feeling. It's really, it's the support mechanisms you have around you to make you even stronger. So it's always not about you. It's about the people around you.
Awesome. Chris, thank you so much for all the things that you shared. My final questions. The first one is, do you have any podcasts, books, TV shows, or movies to recommend to the audience?
Oh, Ricardo, I hate podcasts. I'm joking. No, no. I'm always listening to something on the industry in the car. So, but I would say I read the odd book. I'm a big TV movie guy. So I would say there's two things that I love when it comes to movies or other things. One, I just love comedies. Anything to do with funny, because you live such a serious life. I love to laugh. It's just euphoria. It's just something funny. So anything by, say, like a Will Ferrell movie or Jim Carrey or something like that, I could watch those a million times, and it just makes you feel good every day. But second, I am big on documentaries, sports documentaries. Oh my God. I don't know if you ever watched The Last Dance by Michael Jordan, the Michael Jordan documentary. It was spectacular watching someone's drive and the way they do that and the way they live their life, the insight. So those type of sports documentaries, 30 for 30s on ESPN, I eat those things up. I'll watch them and watch them and watch them. I have friends of mine. We always are comparing ideas or talking about stuff like that. So sports documentaries is a big, big thing for me. I'm a sports buff.
They live in the edge, right? On the edge. So
yeah, and it's risky. You can watch these guys and everything is on every game. If they don't perform, they don't get a contract. So you can kind of watch, and then it's interesting. You watch them as a team though too. How do they work as a team? There was a great article on Tom Brady and his leadership style and how his whole life was. He was in the Harvard Business Study news the other day, and I read this article, and give you an insight of Tom Brady and how he worked with Bill Belichick as coach and the way he worked with people. He was never the starter in university. A lot of bad things happened, but he kept this whole team mentality around him. He always put on a happy face and showed up, even though he could have just been that guy, a prima donna, and just walked away. But it was all about leadership and that. So these are the type of things I love.
Yeah, great lessons to learn from sports, that's for sure. And last question is, where can our listeners find you online?
Perfect. You can go on our website, ihtgroup.ca. My email is cgrant@ihtgroup.ca. Hoghart's the brand. We have that. We have the cooling technology. So there's anything under IHT Group. I'm reachable by email. People can reach out to me. Love to talk to people about what we're doing and future developments and things we're going to be working on cooling and lighting and other products that are outside of agriculture, things that we're working on in the background. So love to talk to people.
Awesome. Chris, thank you so much for your time, for your participation. I'm sure that the audience, I love the conversation. It was really good. Always great to talk to you. And for you that is listening to us, I hope to see you in our next episode. Thanks, everyone.
Hey, thanks, Ricardo.
And bye.